and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Maya versus Ryan rematch. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So we're going to be starting off, speaking about the main event, but there is a couple of other fights that I want to touch upon. It's a decent card, it's nothing too crazy, but in general it's nice to see that this rematch has ended up happening. When the first fight happened, it was a close fight, it was a very entertaining fight, it was a fight in which I would happily have seen again, and I feel like Ryan, there was a lot of controversy obviously with the whole paint being thrown on Ryan incident. Was that Team Maya? I mean, I don't really know. It's maybe been brought out of proportion a little bit with kind of how big of a thing it is. I mean, Eddie Hearn's seemingly compared it to like a hit and run to an extent. It's not, it's not good, but it's not that kind of levels of bad, but it's probably gonna have thrown Ryan off, and it's definitely not what she was wanting or what she was expecting. But in general, I feel like the fight in itself did deserve a rematch because of how good the first fight was, and also the fact that Ryan has been very unfortunate in her career. Obviously the whole thing happened with Mikaela, and the fact that that fight wasn't given a win to her when she clearly won the fight, and she was never then given the rematch. It was it was unfortunate. She had to work hard to be able to get to the position that she was in for that shot, and then if she would have been pushed back down to having to fight an undercard and having to build herself back up again, it would have been harsh, especially when she'd come to America. She'd gone onto a top ranked show. Obviously she's a matchroom fighter, and had this huge opportunity. It would have, like I say, been harsh to not give her a rematch, especially when Maya in the past has had her own close fights with Jonas, with Baumgartner, and she hasn't been given them rematches. It wouldn't have surprised me if Maya had gone, I've been hard done to in the past, let's not give Ryan a rematch, but I respect her for being willing to do so. And so yeah, it's been good. The build up so far hasn't really been anything too crazy. Like I say, I'm kind of only filming this on Monday, so there's nothing really too much that's happened so far, but it might be an interesting build up again. We'll see if any more paint's being thrown. Of course, this is for the WBO welterweight world title. I think that Maya's going to be able to win via unanimous decision. I believe that she looked very good on the back foot in the first fight and looked the faster, the more agile out of the two. The only kind of main thing that I would like to see her change is, she was able to maintain a solid pace. She maybe slowed down a little bit into the later rounds, and that's where Ryan maybe picked up a couple rounds. But for the most part, I feel like she was definitely, especially in the early rounds, having a lot of success with her speed on the back foot. If she is to have a tighter guard and use her longer levers a bit more, I think she can frustrate Ryan, and I think Ryan can fight aggressively at times. I feel like Ryan showcased in that fight, maybe she is a little bit one-dimensional. She has very good power, she's definitely the more powerful out of the two, but I feel like Maya's movement was able to cause her problems, and she was able to be beaten to the punch on multiple occasions. And so yeah, I think Maya is a very good fighter. Obviously if she was to have ran it back with Jonas, I feel like she probably would have beat Jonas, but obviously that won't happen anymore because of course Price beating Jonas. But yeah, I still think a Maya unanimous decision this time, victory. I think like she's got it in the bag. And then who she could go on to fight next, I mean, I've just said the name there that everybody probably wants to see, Lauren Price. Obviously she's just beaten Natasha Jonas on a huge all-women's card, and so I feel like it's the only fight that realistically makes sense when you look around the welterweight division. Otherwise, she's not going to fight Jonas, and other than that there's no kind of other real options of people she can fight. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of means I just don't think there will be any other fights that can happen, and so it should happen. Maybe she could go back down to super lightweight and fight a Cameron, or the winner of Taylor versus Serrano 3. Possibly a fight like that could happen. It would be another blockbuster type fight, and I feel like Maya may only want them in the rest of her career, but still I feel like a Price fight for the welterweight division is the kind of final big hurrah kind of fight, because like I say, there's needing to get some new crop through, but that's the last necessary fight that I feel like needs to happen. And then to move on to speak about the other WBO World Welterweight title that's on the line, same belt as the main event. We have Norman Jr. versus Cuevas. They fight. It's a contest which isn't really intriguing fans, I don't think, that much. Norman Jr., when he beat Santillan, it was a surprising one, at least for me it was. He looked excellent in that contest, and his timing was pinpoint. He was fighting on the back foot, his uppercuts looked really mean, and the execution of his punches just looked amazing. Then, he was riding high. He got the kind of cold looking photos when he was kind of squatting down next to Santillan, and it was good. But then, he pulled out I don't know if he pulled out the purse bids, but he kind of backed out from fighting Ennis, and then Eddie Hearn kind of slandered him for that. And then from there on, we weren't really too sure what was going to be happening with him. Then he was kind of rumoured, he was meant to fight on a Keyshawn Davis undercard when he fought Lemos, and that didn't happen. And to be fair, nobody would have wanted to see a world champion fight against a guy that nobody'd ever heard of on an undercard. But it's kind of still happening now. I mean, at least Cuevas is a ranked opponent who, is a bit noticeable in the name. I mean, he's fought a few times with Top Rank, and he's a Mexican fighter. He's not unbeaten. He's had one defeat, which was a close split decision fight. And so, at least he's a somewhat recognisable name, but still, it's not the best. The welterweight division, compared to the super welterweight division, isn't that loaded with great names, but there definitely still could have been better options than that of a Cuevas, realistically. But I feel like maybe this is just a nice first defence in which Top Rank are giving him. I think that Norman Jr. is going to be able to win via TKO in round 5. I feel like Cuevas isn't that typical Mexican type of style. I feel like maybe he's a bit more of a back foot type fighter, but I've watched him fight and he goes for singular shots. He's got a good jab and he leads off it well, but he keeps his hands low and he doesn't deal with explosive fighters that well. And I feel like shots from Norman Jr. will land quite consistently, and I feel like if he is going to be able to do that, he'll be able to get his power behind us again and could get another emphatic knockout. But maybe he's waiting to test himself. Maybe he just wanted that kind of first defense as just to get that out of the way and to just develop as a champion. But still, it wasn't the best look seeing him drop out to them Ennis. The Ennis talk and the Ennis fight, and possibly could go on to fight the winner of Ennis versus Stanionis for a great unification fight. Hopefully he does. That would be, like I say, a great fight. Rocha, that could still be a good fight. Of course, Santillan beat Rocha, but Rocha's had a couple good wins since then, and he's still ranked very highly. He's Golden Boys, big name in the welterweight division realistically, so that could be a good option. Or even the winner of Esserman versus Taylor, I feel like could be a good option. I feel like that's a good fight, and if Taylor is to beat Esserman, Top Rank, I believe, still work with Taylor. I might be wrong, but they will probably happily have him back on a big show again, so that could be an excellent option as well. If not Esserman, then he deserves it as well, and he's ranked very well as well. So that could be a good fight. We'll have to wait and see where he goes next. And then, another fight I'm not going to give a prediction for, but it's a good fight. Carrington, he's back. He's fighting Vivas. Vivas has had a few losses against, recognisable names. I believe the most recent one being Joet Gonzalez. Like I say, recognisable names in the division. And, now he carries on. It's not the kind of next stepping stone that maybe fans wanted to see for Carrington, but at least it's nice to see him back fighting. He is an excellent fighter. But that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like video if you did indeed like video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.